Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pop Go the Writers. It is September already,
Mhm,
September 3rd.
mhm.
You
Happy
believe it?
Dragon Con weekend.
Dragon Con, Long Beach Comic Con. Um, there's a couple other cons going on this weekend, too.
Have you ever been to Dragon Con?
I have not.
I did it once. It's almost insane on a San Diego Comic Con level, but in a different way. It, it I was it was a 5-day thing, and it took me about 4 days to figure it all out. By the time I had it all figured out, it was pretty much over. But that was one heck of an experience. Um,
The, the impression that I get from Dragon Con is that it's much more of a going to see everybody
yes,
than a con.
yeah.
And it also just appears to be a good con to hook up at.
Uh, like that kind of hookup. Okay, I would not know. Yeah, I assume so, but other than that, yeah, I would not know that part of it. No.
Most of the Dragon Con stories I've heard are usually a little bit more freaky than other
Okay,
conventions,
spicy, saucy.
a little more spicy, saucy. So,
What I learned is that it's pretty much all about panel, like talks, or as they call them, tracks.
yeah.
That's pretty much what you do is you just go every day, multiple times a day. You go between these 5 hotels, and you literally just go to, and it's like a talk or a panel on everything you could possibly imagine in genres, and sometimes even outside of that too. It was interesting because I have several friends who go to it and are part of it, and it's always fun to see what panels they're on. And the one that really was funny was called Muppet Fight, where it's literally like the panelists just they say, okay, Gonzo versus the Swedish Chef, who would win in a fight? And then they talk about it, and then the audience votes on who would be the winner, depending upon what the panelists said.
You realize the Swedish chef would win because he brings knives.
Yes, that's true. Yes, but Gonzo's very slippery, though. So yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
would
but
call him scrappy. I would, but
yeah,
I
yeah. I don't know. I think I might give the edge to Gonzo on that one.
speaking of chefs, had an interesting thing happen tonight.
I saw this. I'm eager to hear this story.
Yeah, I don't go grocery shopping. I order from Walmart. And if you do their membership thing, it really is is more cost efficient
Mm-hmm.
because they bring you the food. There's a couple drawbacks to it. Um, the meat and stuff is always in a range, so you don't really control. Like you can get between 2 and 3 pounds with this chicken. Well, if you're only going to get two, then you might want to order more. But if you're going to get three, so it's that
Hmm.
part's kind of sucks. But every once in a while they'll substitute things.
Hmm.
Now, my nephew just moved out.
Hmm.
He's been living here with my mom and I for the last few years.
Hmm.
And since my dad passed, I've kind of gotten into cooking for three people. I buy everything for three people, so I'm having to rethink my approaches to cooking. Now
Right.
there's just my mom and I, and my mom doesn't eat nearly as much as myself or Michael did.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, just for something different, I've never made it before. I thought I'll try hamburger helper. My mom used to make it when I was a kid. I've never cooked it.
Is it the official hamburger
Yeah,
helper?
yep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I ordered a box of hamburger helper
Mm-hmm.
and order a thing of ground beef.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be for one night.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had something else I was making, and I ordered a thing of mixed of peas and carrots, frozen peas and carrots I could throw in the microwave. And
Right.
well, every once in a while they'll substitute, and you're like, oh, that's a perfectly fine substitution. And other times they give you a substitution. It's like, how are those two related?
Yeah, I mean, right. It should be at least in the same universe, right?
Yeah. So, but you have the option of going, no, don't make that substitution. Well, half the time, what they do is they send the notice out, and then you tell them, no, I don't want that substitution. But they've already pulled the groceries. So they still send it to you. They just don't charge you for it.
What kind of a system is that?
Not very efficient. But
What?
so they swapped out the hamburger helper mix for something called pastaroni. And
The
pastaroni is just pasta. It's not something where you add meat to it,
yeah, pastaroni is like
like rice-a-roni. It's just a
no, I get it,
frozen
but what
pasta.
I mean is it's redundant. Pastaroni, it's like pasta macaroni. Well,
Yeah.
macaroni is pasta.
Well, so they sent that instead, and they didn't send the peas and carrots. They sent this pack that had peas, carrots, corn, and green beans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, that's a pretty big medley of vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
But they sent two. So I ordered one, they sent two. I used the one the other night for the meal I had it planned for.
Uh-huh.
So I'm looking at this pound of ground beef I have,
Mm-hmm.
a box of pastaroni, and I have an extra thing of vegetables. And I'm like, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up. I make Szechuan pork and asparagus, and it's a very simple sauce. It's some hoisin, some soy sauce, it's some red chili flakes or red pepper flakes, and crushed red pepper flakes, and some sugar.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very simple sauce. So I thought I'll make that, and I'll brown the ground beef, I'll nuke up the bag of veggies, and I'll throw it into the beef, and then I'll cover it with this sauce, and it probably be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to swap out the red chili flake for cayenne
Mm-hmm.
just to change it up a bit and
Mm-hmm.
also tone it down a little bit. Mike
Mm-hmm.
and I really like spicy food. Mom is a
Mm-hmm.
little less on it. So I made that up and I made the pastaroni. And I will say that the meat and vegetable thing was very tasty.
Mm-hmm.
The pastaroni was fine, but
Get
creamy
past that name.
Parmesan pasta with this somewhat spicy, sweet meat vegetable mix, the two didn't blend together that well.
Oh, so you don't eat pastaroni by itself, right? It's not intended to be eaten by itself.
No, I mean you put it; it's a side dish.
Yeah, okay,
You
gotcha.
get chicken and pastaroni, and
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, so I was looking at that mix tonight, and like I really liked the beef and vegetable thing. So I was thinking, what if I made like hand pies with it?
Hmm.
So I started looking up recipes on hand pies, and this guy came up. He says, "You know what? I got a real simple one. You just take a thing of biscuits, a pack of 8 biscuits,
Mm-hmm.
and you roll them flat, and then you make up whatever you want to put in them, and then you put it on there. You do a little egg wash, fold it over, egg
Mm-hmm.
wash the top, and you bake them for however long you make a biscuit." And I'm thinking, I'm there. That's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I was literally, now I'm excited about this mistake that's turned into beef and veggie meat pies for
It
hand
sounds
pies.
like maybe they have some new employees they're training at the
Yeah,
Oh,
there was some other stuff. I ordered mint cookies. They sent caramel coconut cookies.
I had a happy food accident. I forgot all about this.
What was that?
So every once in a while, when I'm at the grocery store, I'll buy a salmon, and I guess we would call it a salmon fillet. it's not a steak, salmon steak. It's a
Right.
salmon fillet, and it kind of looks like it steps down. It's not like a center cut type of thing. But anyways, and I bake it in the oven, and it's very simple, and I really like it. So I come home and I turn the oven on to preheat it, and about halfway through the preheating, I hear zzz, and then I see like inside the little window in the oven that the filament starts to not like go out, and then I smell something burnt, like burning or whatever. So I pull the oven away from the wall and unplug it and everything. It's like great. So my electric oven is toast now. But I have this salmon, and I'm like, the hell, by the time I get this fixed, like the salmon will be bad. And I don't know how it occurred to me, and I thought, I wonder if you can microwave salmon. And I quick, get on my phone, and it says, the first thing that comes up, and it says, absolutely, you can microwave salmon. It said, like, put it in a dish, cover it, do whatever you're gonna do to it, put a cover on it, and microwave it for about 4 to 6 minutes, or until cooked. And by God, that actually worked. And in fact, I think it was just as good if I had baked it, and maybe even a little bit better.
Wow.
So that was a very nice. I think it's like, I don't know how I thought of that, but it was out of desperation. Like, crap, I wonder if I could put it in the microwave. And you know what, that works. I may just do it that way from here on out.
Probably easier.
Yeah, yes. Well, it's like 25 minutes to bake it, and in the middle of summer, it'll heat up your house and in your kitchen and everything. So
Yeah.
no, it worked out. Happy little food accident.
Yep. Hi, and welcome to Cooking with Dan and Jim.
I know, right?
Yeah.
We're not even giving them like these things like weird science fiction names, or like Star Wars type names,
Yeah, there you go.
Microwave porg.
Yes, I'll be making Etruscan hand pies.
Yeah, right. That's pretty
Yeah.
funny. So you didn't do the ham pies yet. You're going to do
No,
it. Okay.
no.
Right.
Well,
Well, I'll be looking forward to hearing about that.
I was never really a cook until the pandemic.
Right. I remember saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would make little things, and one of the things I used to make was pizza balls.
Oh, wow.
And what I would do is take biscuits, quarter them, roll them flat, put some pepperoni, some mozzarella in there, roll it into a ball, do the egg wash on it, and cook them in the oven for like you would biscuits, because they were biscuits. And I'd make those up. And I haven't done those in years because in my mind now, well, that's not cooking. That's just throwing something together. And it's like
well, that's kind of the definition of cooking, isn't it?
I realize that,
throwing something together.
Since it's funny, it's that ever since I started cooking, I've become kind of a cooking snob.
Oh, okay, I get it.
I don't want to use packaged items and frozen items. I want to make fresh stuff.
I get it.
Yeah, I have to kind of get mentally past that now. So
as long as it didn't already exist, and it's something that you had to take at least 2 to 3 things and put together and then cook somehow, then it is absolutely cooking.
Yeah, but I mean, like these ham pies I want to make, I need a thing of biscuits, a pound of ground beef, a bag of microwave mixed vegetables, peas, carrots, or whatever's in it, and then soy sauce, hoisin sauce, sugar, and cayenne. I'm done.
Don't tell the store what you've done, because then they'll think it's okay to make mistakes, or do those kinds of substitution. They'll go, oh, listen, this guy, it doesn't matter what you send him, just literally send him anything, because he'll make something out of it. It's all cool.
Well, that's when I first kind of went from being cooking or heating stuff up to cooking, was when I walked into the store when the pandemic really hit, and the aisles were all empty, and I just grabbed what I could, because I wasn't walking in with the recipe going, I need this and this. And this.
Right.
I walked in and went, what in the hell am I going to do with this kind of meat? And yeah,
Necessity is the mother of invention.
yeah, chicken quarters, and stuff like that. So, all
Well,
right, I think we're good
that's
enough.
way more inventive than I would ever get. I think microwaving, a salmon fillet is about the height of of my, gourmet cooking.
Well, I've made some pretty crazy things, and I've had a couple failures.
Hmm.
Things that I've thought this could come out. I did something the other day. It was a pasta transverse or something, and you didn't cook the pasta sauce. You were more making a pesto, and it was um, cherry tomatoes and walnuts and Parmesan cheese and all this stuff. And I put it together and absolutely hated it. Ended up
It
ordering
happens.
food, throwing it out and ordering food. Hey
Yeah.
Scott, how you doing? Next stop, chopping on Food Network.
Well,
I do enjoy cooking. I never used to, but I had a fear of either poisoning people or catching things on fire.
or screwing it up so badly that you had to order, Chinese
No, I was
takeout.
never that I'm okay with.
Okay.
Screwing it up so bad that you're driving someone to the emergency room.
Yeah, sure.
That's was always my concern. But,
Sure. Sure. Okay.
but
All
all
right.
right, we should probably get on to the pop culture part of the
All right.
programming.
Well, I just one last thing. I want to see photos of the ham pies. Okay,
Well,
because I
absolutely,
saw the
absolutely.
photos of the other thing, and it looked perfectly fine to me. Even the pastaroni. If rice-a-roni is the San Francisco treat, what is pastaroni? The what treat?
Something in Italian,
Okay.
someplace in Italy.
Okay.
It's the Brooklyn treat. There you go.
The Brooklyn treat.
Yeah. Before we get into talking about Ahsoka, we should probably mention the passing of Jimmy Buffett. Well, we've lost a lot of people lately.
Hmm.
We lost Arlene Sorkin, Bob Barker.
Oh my
Arlene
God.
Sorkin, of course, being the voice of the original voice of Harley Quinn.
Yeah, that was pretty big in the in fandom world. Yeah.
Yeah. And what a lot of people don't realize is that when Paul Dini created Harley Quinn, he already knew he wanted Arlene Sorkin because she had played this type of character on a soap opera done in Harlequin makeup and everything.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and there's photos of her and stuff out there in it. So when she walked in, she played that part and basically created Harley Quinn. Because unlike most of the characters in the Batman universe that come from the comics and then jump, Harley Quinn was created in the animated series.
We're correct. Right. Right.
And Arlene Sorkin was the major defining person behind the character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what we see as Harley Quinn was because of Arlene Sorkin.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a great actress. Love that voice. That she could do that voice, and so yeah. I mean, it's sad that she passed. Again, so many of these people are dying way too young.
Mm.
I mean,
did Margot Robbie say anything? I mean, not that she would really have to, but I was just wondering if you saw that she said anything.
I don't believe she has, but Tara Strong did, and Tara always played that girl in the animated series, but
right.
she would voice Harley in some of the later games.
Right, but you gotta believe that Margot Robbie had to draw something from.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she did.
That portrayal. I mean,
yeah,
right?
A lot of people said nice things about her, and
yeah,
there's an image now of the animated Harley Quinn walking hand in hand with the animated Batman up to what looks like it's going to be heaven.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I sometimes I see stuff that Mark Hamill says, but I don't know if I saw anything of him saying anything. I'm sure, that would have been another
Yeah,
person.
he did. He talked about
Okay.
wishing his best to the family, and
Hmm.
yeah, I mean that was a pretty tight group.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Definitely.
yeah, and it's hard to believe some of the people that were on that show.
Yeah.
You know,
It is.
Jonathan
It was
Glover,
absolutely
Richard Mall,
amazing.
yeah, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.
Hmm.
You know, I mean nowadays most people don't even know who that is.
Right.
But our age, we grew up. That was a name, and then his daughter was on Remington Steele.
Hmm.
So
Where I work, we have all these celebrity autographs all over the place, and we have Michael Ansara. And here's me, telling people, yeah, he was on original classic Star Trek, and then later reprised the character on Next Gen and Deep Space Nine. And I had somebody look at me and go, yeah, and he was in Batman the Animated Series. And I went, what? And they're like, yeah, he was Mr. Freeze. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's right, isn't it?
I don't know.
See, okay, now I said that, and now I have to look that up.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's possible. They got a lot of the older actors, like I said, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. to play Alfred. You know, or
Yes, yeah, he was Mr. Freeze.
yeah, I love the fact that Richard Mole, who played Bull on Night Court,
Right.
was what, Two Face?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
My wife and I used to watch that, and I hated it because at the very end the credits used to go by really quick, and we'd sit there and wait because we wanted to, if we didn't immediately recognize it, we wanted to see, because we knew that every episode there was going to be some incredible person who did the voices, but
Oh yeah.
sometimes they'd go by really quick, and I don't even know if we were on the internet or if there was much of an internet at that point.
No, the voice cast. Um, when I when I do my psychology videos, the animated series are always a good place to look at how certain characters are treated
Hmm.
or handled. Lex Luthor being one, the Riddler is another one,
Hmm.
and Jonathan Glover playing the Riddler, but he plays it so differently than how like Frank Gorshin played it, stuff like that,
Hmm.
because he didn't want it to be a mimic of the Joker,
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
which Frank Gorshin kind of did.
Yeah, it's often been said, and I'll be one of the ones who say it a lot, is that Frank Gorshin's Riddler is much more nuts and crazy than Cesar Romero's Joker.
Yeah,
I the Here's the way I like to put it. I wouldn't mind necessarily being in the same room as Cesar Romero's Joker, but I would not want to be in the same room with Frank Gorshin's Riddler, because that guy will cut you, man. He will
yeah,
cut you wide and deep. My wife used to say, "Man, you'd almost think that Frank Gorshin really was a criminal, because he's just so, you know, nutsy criminal
yeah.
like in that role." But it
There's
is absolutely true in that he acted way more crazy than the Joker.
like Arlene Sorkin on Harley Quinn, a lot of the Riddler was defined by Frank Gorshin
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely
because
true.
the character had only appeared twice
Twice.
prior, and then
Actually three. It's twice in the
twice
40s,
prior,
and
and
then
then once
once
right before.
once right before. Yeah, it's
Yeah, so he like
right after
disappeared
the
for
new era,
15 years.
the new look begins. But yeah, so there's nothing there. No,
Right.
I've often said that the Riddler is has his place in Batman's pantheon of villains because of the portrayal in the original 66 show.
Yeah.
I mean, if they had not used the character there, I don't think it really would have been much of anything, today. That really cemented it, and it made people think, afterwards that he had been a long-standing bad guy. But like you said, yeah, it's only 2 Golden Age appearances, and then that once right not long before the show.
But the one that happened right before the show is actually what is the premise for the pilot.
Pretty much, yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And and what solidified Batman. I mean,
Yep.
it really is a big deal.
It really is.
The comic fans were looking at it going, Riddler? Why are they using the Riddler?
Right.
Or everybody else is like, oh, that must be his big bad.
For the most part, Jim Carrey is doing a lot of Frank Gorshin in his portrayal of the Riddler.
Yeah, John Glover definitely goes a different direction.
Yeah, sure.
Paul Dano does as well in the most recent one. And I enjoy both of their performances. And I kind of a lot of people seem to think that the Riddler is OCD, but I actually came up with a completely different setup for him.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a compulsion that to leave the riddles, but
but it's not typical OCD. It's OCPD, which is obsessive compulsive personality disorder with a sub diagnosis of schizophrenia. Yeah, and that's why he can sometimes be the hero and help people, and then suddenly flip back and forth. Yeah, so.
He is my favorite Bat villain. Always has been and always will be.
Yeah, I found a lot of interesting stuff on him when I was doing that video about him. So, which reminds me, I need to do another one and pick a different villain. So,
how did you ever get to doing those? Do you have a background in psychology or?
No, well, I've studied a lot of psychology, but I don't actually have a background in it.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't mean to out you or anything. I'm just curious of how you came to of all things.
I had reason to learn a lot about narcissistic personality disorder.
Okay.
And in doing so, I realized that is what Lex Luthor is, even though he's not done right in most movies. He's treated like a megalomaniac.
Gotcha.
And he's actually a narcissistic personality disorder. So that's why I did that first paper.
Back when I used to write for Marvel.com, there was another freelance writer who would do a semi-regular like column for Marvel.com called Psych Ward. And I think it was a similar sort of thing where they would take a Marvel character and kind of break it down as far as their psychology. And I always thought that was interesting. And I remember saying to him before, like, I'm sure glad you're doing these because I could never, that just wasn't something that I would have ever been able to do.
Yeah. But I do have 2 friends who have studied psychology and psychiatry and stuff that I go to with my findings and to get leads on. And then once I kind of lock in, I let them read everything over.
Great.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm leaning towards either Sinestro or Captain Cold is the next one.
Sinestro would be pretty interesting.
Yep. So, all right. So we were eventually going to get to Bob Barker passing and then Jimmy Buffett. And Jimmy Buffett is kind of an interesting person in that most people look at him as kind of the beach bum lifestyle. It's what he marketed. It's what it's who he was, and anybody who knows him will tell you that's how he lived his life. But he also built up $1 billion industry. The man is worth a lot. He has hotels and restaurants all in that style. He's written books, and it just there's a whole lot more to him. And then you see the people who are writing. We were talking before we got on air. He would take something somebody would say, and he'd go, "That sounds like a song." And one of the things he heard was somebody said, "Oh, my gummy just kicked in." And he ended up writing a song called "My Gummy Just Kicked In." And Paul McCartney played bass on it.
Yeah, that's
You know?
amazing.
And
That's
Paul
just
McCartney
amazing.
just wrote this huge thing about Jimmy, and he's just one of those people that seemed very genuine, but also way more brilliant than his persona looked. You know?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was almost a fooly in a way that he had, this sort of skin that he wore, but he had a lot more going on, than just this sort of, layabout type of character.
Yep. Reminds me a bit of the Scarlet Pimpernel.
Yeah, there's a good one. Before we started recording, I brought up that a song of his that I really like. It might not have he might not have written it, but he actually recorded it. Was played on Michael Nesmith's Television Parts TV show. Used to have a long time ago. Mike Nesmith from the Monkees,
Right.
and I guess, and Jimmy were friends. And it's called La Vie Dansante, which is the dancing life. But the video for it is like Mike Nesmith was known for, making music videos, and it's a really, really clever, cool video for it. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube very easily, and I recommend that to anybody out there who might not be familiar with it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I look back at speaking of Mike Nesmith and stuff like that. I think history looks at the Monkees and are not very kind to them because they were a TV band.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen a lot of photos and stuff of the guys from the Monkees
Mm-hmm.
who are also like hanging out with, all these famous. There was a picture I saw, and I believe this was who was in it: Paul McCartney, Alice Cooper.
I think it might be Mickey Dolenz.
Mickey Dolenz, that's the name
Yeah.
I was looking for.
Yeah.
And then
Mm-hmm.
there's one other famous musician.
Yep.
And you look at them, and that first thought is, what's the guy from the Monkees doing there?
Yep.
And
I
you
hear you.
realize that's because they were musicians too.
Yeah, I hear
They
you.
weren't, they weren't looked down upon. It's like some of the photos from the 70s are
Mm-hmm.
pretty amazing. I mean, there's this amazing photo that pops up occasionally of Alice Cooper at a Playboy Mansion party with the woman that played Edith.
Yeah, Gene Stapleton.
Jean Stapleton.
Yeah.
And she's in like bondage wear.
Yep. Yeah,
And
I
it's
know
like,
that photo. That's an infamous photo. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
It's like, how did that?
Yep.
We obviously don't know what the 70s were really like.
Yeah, people say the thing about I don't remember the 60s, but it's really the 70s that are probably.
Yeah.
The Monkees is to me, it's a sad story, and it's never ever going to change. I mean, the perception is out there, but they did become a band. Interestingly enough, all four of them had done and released music recording songs. Two of them were singers. Mickey and Davey were singers, and Mike was already an accomplished singer-songwriter, and Peter was too, for that matter. Peter could play almost any instrument at all. Anything you'd hand him, he could pretty much play. They really brought a lot of different things in, and they did actually become a band first out of necessity, because they were getting a lot of crap, and then they had they said, all right, we're sending you out on tour, and they had to learn how to play together, and it took a while, but they managed to actually go on full tours, all over the place.
Yeah.
And then they were able actually to make albums. The first two albums they didn't really play on, and then their third album was Headquarters. They got away from Don Kirshner, who was the music producer, and they actually did play and produce that whole album. And they did it a couple times, after that too. I love them. They're in my top 5, favorite bands of all time. But it's sad, and it's just that perception is just going to keep going on and on and on. They won't let them in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but
Yeah,
honestly, I think like Mike before he died, said like, well, I don't really care to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's stupid anyways.
yeah.
Um,
No disrespect to Dolly Parton, but having Dolly Parton in the Rock and Roll Hall of
yeah,
Fame
yeah,
just
it,
just kind of killed it for me.
yeah,
Because I think
it's
the world of Dolly Parton, but she's not rock and roll.
no, I don't get it either. It's a lot of people have said it. It really is more of a music Hall of Fame, or maybe call it the popular music Hall of Fame that can encompass so many different things. I
Yeah,
guess, but yeah, calling it the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when there's still a lot of rock and rollers that are not in
yeah,
it
exactly.
doesn't make much sense. I love her reaction to being put into it. She was
Well,
really nice about it, but you could see she was like kind of
well,
dumbfounded too.
at first she turned it down,
Uh-huh.
and then she turned around on it because of how many people were positive about her going in.
Yeah.
So instead, she decided to make a rock album.
There you go.
Yeah, and called on Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr.
Yeah. Which one does, of course.
Oh yeah, yeah. And how do you not answer the phone, Paul? Dolly Parton on the line.
Right.
Hello, Dolly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, certain people, if they call you up, uh, you answer the phone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
And it's the other way around. When Paul McCartney calls, you answer the phone too.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you make sure that you tape record that. You record that.
I'm not even a big Beatles fan, and I would take the call from Paul McCartney.
I would hope you would, Dan. Jeez. I would never speak to you again if I found out that you ghosted Paul McCartney.
Yeah, I'd have to tell him that he plays the worst bass ever.
Oh no. You
Now
mean
that's not
by
saying
worst
that,
you mean the best.
I'm not saying he is bad.
Uh-huh.
I'm saying the Hofner violin bass
Oh, I
is
see.
a
I
piece
got
of
what
shit.
he also owns Rickenbackers, so
He does.
that
So
brings
do I. And
okay.
I hold out hope for him.
Okay.
I, I,
He has
I
that
I own a
beautiful black
Rickenbacker
and white
203.
Rickenbacker.
I own a Rickenbacker 2003.
Okay.
So it's the only
Boy,
one I
you
have
saved
out.
that one. You saved that one because I was going to fight you on that one.
Oh no, worst bassist ever is Gene Simmons.
That I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna say okay. I trust you on that one. I have no idea whatsoever. Not a
I
Kiss
spent an
fan.
evening.
Never been a Kiss fan.
I spent an evening explaining to my nephew that, and how I did it was I said, okay, let me bring up a couple solos for you, and I brought up John Entwistle from the Who, and he's just going to.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's doing the plucking and slapping and
Right.
so Victor Wooten, all-time bass player. Great stuff.
How about here's one? Geddy Lee of Rush.
Geddy Lee was very talented, but I think he held himself back because he was trying to do too much. So his solos are brilliant, but I think by him trying to sing and play guitar or play keyboards and the bass all at the same time, he held himself back a little bit.
Okay.
So, but I would show him Billy Sheehan from Mr. Big.
Okay.
Fabulous bass player.
Mm-hmm.
Also played bass for David Lee Roth when he went solo. And he's one of the guys that did the Makita on the guitar before Eddie Van Halen. I said, okay, here's a Gene Simmons solo. And Gene Simmons would play three notes, bow, 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 and he'd like throw his hands in the air trying to get people to cheer, and he'd play the same three notes again and do it again. I'm like, that's not a solo.
It's all theatrics.
Yeah, it's milking the crowd.
Yeah.
Is there anybody I would rather run my band and to make money than Gene Simmons? Hell no. I grew up a Kiss fan.
Mm-hmm.
I was into the theatrics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 10 years old when Kiss Meets the Fan of the Park came out. I was all over it.
I actually watched that. I think that was because it was a time when we were all desperate for anything like that on TV.
I have it on VHS.
Yep. Good for you. Yeah. I've heard that before, that Gene Simmons is an unparalleled businessman.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he would be more insulted if you said he was a bad businessman than if you said he was a bad bassist.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the bass was just a means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that battle axe guitar is really hard to play because it's butt heavy.
I bet. Are you saying it's just for show?
It's all for show.
Okay.
All right. So, just talking about some of the people we lost this week. Also, it was the 106th birthday of Jack Kirby. So a lot of people are acknowledging Jack.
Yeah.
I did a couple of shows on him this week. I did one just basically, I did all the best villains of all time. But I did specifically Jack Kirby villains. You know, did you know he created Crazy Quilt?
You know what? Yeah. Did he? Because Crazy Quilt first appeared in Robin's solo series, I thought. No?
He first appeared in the 40s in the Boy Commandos.
Oh, is that right? I was thinking that he appeared in Robin's solo series in Star Spangled Comics. He appeared in Boy Commandos. You're right. Yes. This is coming back to me. Yep. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy Quilt.
Yep. Yeah, it's been an interesting week. So, but let's finally get to Ahsoka. I was starting to watch it, and I saw that you had already finished and posted the phrase "It's Star Wars, people," or something like that.
I said it's 2,000% Star Wars.
Yeah, there it is.
I was pretty excited. I was pretty excited for it.
I thought it opened a little slow.
It did. It was a Foolie. Oh, yes, it did.
And then we went into, hey, we're coming out of hyperspace, and everything hit the fan.
Yeah.
David Tennant is stealing this series.
Yeah, I've really come to like Hu Yang, although I want to know why he has a regular name and not a droid designation.
Well, he's ancient.
He's ancient. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. Yeah, it was back before they gave them, letters and numbers and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because he's from, what is that era called? The High Republic era?
Is that right? My only concern about him is that if he's that ancient, they make a big deal in the sequel trilogy about the Jedi texts, but all along there's this droid that has lived it all and is still around and knows all the Jedi stuff. So those two things are kind of hard to reconcile, a little bit.
Well, don't you realize that what's going to happen is that they're going to create this new timeline by jumping through to the Purgles, and all of the sequel trilogies are going to be taken out of canon.
Next. Let's just keep going. Let's get through this episode, and God, They're not going to get rid of those movies. They're here to stay.
I agree with you because
Every single thing that we've gotten in, in Mandalorian and now this thing or whatever is showing us how it all happened. Somehow Palpatine returned.
returned. Yes.
This is how. This is all what it's all about right here.
By the way, the fact that the guy who used to play Doctor Who is now an android named Hu Yang.
Yeah, Hu Yang, you're right. Yeah, that's pretty funny. I didn't think of that. Yep, but that's pretty funny. I'm really embracing all these characters now. Sabine, took me a little bit with Hera, but I'm I really like Hu Yang, and I don't like Chopper yet. And why is Chopper not have a regular droid designation either? But
Chopper's a war criminal.
I've been hearing that. Well, they're all war criminals, aren't they? What does that even mean?
Chopper basically made a decision during Rebels that killed like thousands of the enemy.
Okay.
But in a way that you didn't need to do it that way. And he just so there is this running gag that he's basically a war criminal.
Okay. So he's
they kind of keep it going with the bad attitude he has.
Mm-hmm.
And like shoot it out of the sky. I can't. It'll crash into innocence.
Okay.
Was his response.
Is he considered Hera's droid, or does he just like hang around with her?
I've seen the first couple episodes of Rebels.
Yeah.
I think that he's either Hera's droid or he was Kanan's droid, and Kanan's dead now, so it goes to Hera.
Okay.
Kanan, of course, being the Jedi who was a former Jedi Padawan who survived Order 66.
Mm-hmm, right.
If you watch The Bad Batch,
mm-hmm.
in the very beginning where they decide not to kill the young Padawan,
mm-hmm.
that's Kanan.
Okay.
And he ends up training Ezra Bridger and dies, sacrifices himself, and the young boy with the green hair. Jason. That's Kanan and Hera's son.
Yeah. So it took me a moment to like how does a Twi'lek and a human have a kid that looks entirely human except for some green in his hair? But okay, Twi'lek genes are not that strong. They're recessive, I guess.
Could be. Or he got his head tails in other places.
Yeah. I doubt if he's going to be a focus or anything, but that's interesting because he's a young kid right now. He really wants to become a Jedi. Chances are he has the Force if his father did. And I'd like to know, I'll be interested to see if that will play out somewhere. My thought is that he could show up in the Rey movie that they're talking about making. He'll be, literally like 30 he'll be almost 40 years old or so by that point. And I was thinking, oh, well, he could maybe help Rey train the new, Jedi. I think it would be a really nice seed to plant now and then try to do something, with him down the road.
Or they could send him to Luke's academy, and then we'll never see him again.
I know. The Easter egg video that I watched, they did a funny little thing about him. Like they said almost that exact same thing, and then they show and they go, and then this happens, and then they show the shot of the burning Jedi temple with Luke, outside of it, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Let's hope that's not where he goes.
Well, it'll be okay once they rewrite canon.
Okay. I'm really enjoying the show. I thought the third episode has been my favorite so far.
Mhm.
I'm really looking forward to Tuesday. I almost said Wednesday, Tuesday night now. I really do want to see. They're kind of stuck down on that world now. They're being hunted,
Yeah,
and they've got to stop that stupid big hyperspace ring from taking off.
yeah,
So the Purgle are probably right there because Morgan it wants to launch from the beginning of one of the Purgle's routes. So I'm assuming that's why they were there. And
well, from what I understand, this is just part of their migration pattern.
yeah,
What
right.
the Purgles eat is, I'm trying to remember how they explain it in Rebels. They travel along the hyperspace lanes and they feed on the used fuel for hyper engines.
Hmm.
As it's kicked out from ships, they
Hmm.
feed on that.
Hmm.
So that's why they travel the space lanes and they migrate. And
Hmm.
I think this is just part of their migration pattern.
Well, I wonder what they ate before there were hyperspace engines.
Well,
They
from
just
what I
learned to
was,
it's a delicacy, I guess, for
yeah, it
them.
could be.
Any more thoughts on Merrick at
Well,
this
first thing, I think Dave Filoni needs to take step back from the wolf
point? Yeah,
symbology.
I've learned all about this because, of course, I'm not watching those animated shows. Yeah, he really does have this kind of wolf obsession. Does anybody know why that is? Was
All
he?
I know is that all of us have two wolves inside of us, and Dave Filoni plans on putting them both in an episode.
I'm assuming that he was raised by wolves.
Could be.
Okay, because that makes the most sense, and
Yeah.
he's sort of paying all wolves
Yeah.
back by putting them in
His
everything.
freaking character, his pilot character, is Trapper Wolf. And it's like, okay,
Yeah, the next
step
thing we're
back a
gonna
little
find
bit.
out is Filoni means wolf in Italian or whatever the hell.
Maybe it does. I don't know. But yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Uh,
Um, yeah, it's Marek at this point. I almost don't want him to be anybody.
that's where I'm at right now. Yeah, because again, if you reveal him and you haven't already somehow introduced who he is somehow, then it's literally like, well, so what?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. I mean, and I think they're leaning on the animated stuff a little too much at times. So
Could
if
be.
Marek is nobody, if Merrick is just Merrick,
Mhm.
he was someone who was going to be another Inquisitor until Vader died, and then they don't have Inquisitors anymore.
Right,
Um,
right.
I'm fine with that. I kind of would like to see that happen, but then again, I'd like to see a Star Wars show that doesn't have a Jedi in it.
Oh, come on now. They're not going to do that.
Order 66 was supposed to kill almost all of them. Tell me one Star Wars thing doesn't have a Jedi in it.
Yeah, I hear you. I know. Well, you know what? Honestly, that was my beef. My really only beef with Rogue One and Solo is that the movies are going along, and there's none of all the Jedi stuff, and then at the end, of Rogue One, you have to have all that Darth Vader stuff, which is not necessary at all. It was just literally now talk about fan service. That whole scene with Vader in the hallway is just fan service. And then Solo, it's going right along, and then suddenly we have Darth Maul at the end of it.
Yeah.
And none of that stuff was needed. We could have had two whole movies with a bunch of Jedi stuff in there if
Yep.
it wasn't for those things. So
I'm
it
a
it
little
could
more
work.
forgiving on Rogue One
Hmm.
because it's supposed to lead right into that moment.
Sure, I get it. I get that. If it would have been that Vader is just sort of in it, and doesn't, if he didn't have to do that whole big stupid thing in the hallway, then maybe that I wouldn't have minded as much. And obviously in Solo, they really thought they were going to do something with that.
Yeah.
And then the movie just didn't really, do that well. They thought that was a whole, beginning there for something.
But my problem with Rogue One, and I've probably said this to you before, is I don't consider it a movie.
That sounds familiar. Yeah, like you've said that before.
To me, it's like a bridge in a musical or in a song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's just connecting 2 points. It's something different connecting 2 points. Rogue One by itself makes no sense. There's no character growth. There's no story arcs.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very straightforward. We need to get this. We go to get this. We're done.
Yeah.
There's no twists. There's no turns. It's all just very straightforward.
Wait a second. Does Andor have a Jedi in it? I don't think it does.
No, but there was a kyber crystal.
Okay. Andor is the show that you want. I'm sorry. Kyber. A kyber crystal is not a Jedi.
No, but it's where they get their powers from, or where they get the lightsabers from. And there is a second season, so you never know.
Okay. The first season of Andor is the show that you want.
There is a chance that, I can't remember his name now, the guy that gets Andor into this stuff.
Oh, that guy, Skarsgård or whatever.
Yeah. Stellan Skarsgård's character.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a Jedi.
No, he's not. He's not a Jedi.
He's carrying a kyber crystal around his neck.
We can have one. So they're valuable things in the Star Wars universe. We should be able to have one show, one Star Wars thing with no Jedi. You should be agreeing with me on this.
I do agree with you.
Okay.
But I don't think they can do it. I think they're allergic to the fact.
I think they're doing it. It's
like they were going to do the third season Mandalorian without Baby Grogu. And the studio went, no, you're not.
Well, come on. That's like saying we don't want to print money.
They could have done Jedi Academy.
Yeah. Listen,
like Riverdale with Jedis. And
all I want is what the second half of that third episode of Ahsoka is. That's all I want is just space battles.
I want to go back to a heist type thing, and I want to bring in Andor, Migs Mayfield, Black Chrysanthemum, Boba Fett, and Din Djarin. That would be my squad to break into place.
Okay. All right. I hope you get that.
You can bring Ming-Na Wen's character too.
Okay.
So I'm good with that. But
Fennec Shand, I think.
Fennec Shand, yes.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious where they're going to go with this, though, because it seems like with how slow the first 2 episodes were and part of this one, I didn't think we would end with them on the planet already. Because we're only 3 episodes in, and there's 8?
8 altogether, yeah.
So are they going to end up going to where Thrawn is?
There's a shot of Thrawn on the bridge deck of Morgan's, ship ring, hyperspace ring thing. So they go and get him. I'm wondering how long it's going to take to bring Thrawn into the show.
I kind of thought he'd come in at the end to set up this movie Filoni's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to have him come in and then beat him.
He's got to be stopped in some way, I think. I think there has to be some victory for Ahsoka and the others, but it's not going to be like the big stop.
Yeah.
But he does have to be stopped because he is not the head of the First Order in the sequel, trilogy. So, they stop him, whether
Yeah,
that
but
means
there's going to be a movie for that.
that's what I would figure. But yeah, I think he has to have at least some sort of delay in what he's doing. They have to do something that hampers him significantly, but he's still around to be taken care of
Right.
in this movie.
Or his return is what causes the change in the timeline.
All right, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. Stop messing with my Star Wars.
All right. I think we're going to wrap it up there, folks. Jim, don't take off. I want to talk to you real quick after.
Okay.
But all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We will see you next Sunday.
Happy
Have a
American
great
Labor Day.
tomorrow.